In the heart of the old city, hidden behind rows of spice stalls and fabric shops, there stood a small but magical place known as the Carpenter's Market. Unlike the noisy shops selling modern goods, this corner of the bazaar whispered stories of the past through the scent of freshly cut wood and the sound of chisels tapping. The market was a narrow alleyway lined with wooden workshops on both sides. Each shop was run by skilled craftsmen, many of whom had learned the trade from their fathers and grandfathers. The wood they used came from nearby forests, walnut, cedar, and olive, each with its own scent and soul. Children ran between the shops playing with wooden toys carved right before their eyes. Tourists often stopped in amazement, watching as plain blocks of wood were transformed into beautiful furniture, delicate boxes, and artistic carvings. One of the most famous carpenters was Uncle Yusef, an old man with a long white beard and hands tough like bark. He never used machines. Instead, he shaped every piece by hand, using tools passed down through generations. People said he could speak to the wood, and sometimes it seemed like the wood listened. One day, a young boy named Sammy came to the market, eyes wide with wonder. He had no money, but he watched Uncle Yusef work every day after school. The old man noticed the boy's curiosity and one evening handed him a small block of cedar. "Here," said Uncle Yusef, "let's see what your hands can do." From that day forward, the market gained a new apprentice. And even as the modern world moved faster outside, the carpenter's market remained a place where time slowed down and the art of wood lived on, carved into every grain. Sami returned to the market every day after school. He cleaned the workshop, swept the sawdust, and handed Uncle Yusef his tools. But most of all, he watched, carefully, silently, learning how to read the grain of the wood, how to hold a chisel, and how to listen. Months passed, and the seasons changed. The carpenter's market remained the same, like a secret world untouched by time. Sammy's hands, once small and soft, grew stronger and steadier. He began carving small pieces, first spoons, then boxes, and finally, a little wooden bird that could balance on one finger. When Uncle Yusef saw the bird, he smiled. "You're ready," he said. "Tomorrow you will open your own bench." Sammy could hardly believe it. The next morning, with the help of the other carpenters, they cleared a small space for him under the old fig tree at the end of the alley. There he placed his tools and a simple sign, "Sammy the Woodcrafter, handmade with heart." Customers began to visit, curious about the young boy with a craftsman's hands. Tourists returned with photos pointing at the bird he had carved. Even the other carpenters started asking his advice on details only young eyes could see. But Sammy never forgot the first piece of cedar Uncle Yusef gave him. He kept it on a shelf, untouched, smooth and golden, like a reminder of the beginning. Years later, Uncle Yusef passed away peacefully in his sleep. The market mourned, but it didn't fade, it became stronger. Sammy took over his mentor's workshop and promised to teach others, just as he had been taught. The sound of chisels, laughter, and the scent of wood continued to fill the air. And so, in the heart of the old city, beneath the ancient stones and whispering fig trees, the carpenter's market lived on, not just in wood, but in hands, memory, and tradition. Years passed, and Sammy grew into a man, respected not only for his skill, but for his kindness. He continued Uncle Yusef's legacy, always working with care, never rushing, and treating each piece of wood as if it had a story waiting to be told. One day, a group of architecture students from the city university visited the market. They were fascinated by the handmade furniture, the traditional tools, and the peaceful rhythm of the craftsman's work. But what caught their attention most was Sammy's workshop. He welcomed them warmly, showing them the tools, explaining the techniques, and letting them try carving a simple line into a soft piece of pine. The students asked, "Why don't you use machines? Wouldn't it be faster?" Sammy smiled gently. "Faster doesn't always mean better," he said. "Wood is like a living thing. When you work with your hands, you give it part of your soul, and it remembers." Inspired, the students asked if they could come every weekend to learn. Soon, more young people began arriving, artists, builders, even engineers, all drawn to the quiet magic of the carpenter's market. Over time, the market grew not in size, but in spirit. The old alleyway became a symbol of tradition and beauty. Sammy opened a small school beside his workshop, naming it the House of Wood and Memory. Inside, he placed a wooden statue of Uncle Yusef, carved from the same cedar block he had once been gifted as a child. Beneath it, a small plaque read, "He taught me how to carve wood and how to shape a life." The market, once hidden in the shadows of the city, became known across the country. But no matter how many visitors came, it always stayed the same, quiet, warm, filled with the scent of wood and the spirit of those who respected it. And as long as there were hands to shape and hearts to listen, the carpenter's market would never fade.